So as many of you know, there's an election on Tuesday. We've put together a team of some of the best political analysts alive to come up with a definitive list of who every single character on the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate roster is voting for.
Starting off with Mario.
Yes, Mario is voting for Donald Trump. He, being a Brooklyn plumber, has likely worked in Trump Tower. He views Donald Trump as a New Yorker, and he confidently casts his vote for Donald Trump on Tuesday.
Donkey Kong even more confidently casting his vote for Donald Trump.
Obviously a Trump supporter.
Donkey Kong loves his bananas, has a big hoard of bananas. He doesn't want to distribute his bananas equally.
Yes. Link, voting for Biden, supported Bernie Sanders in the primary. A future to believe in, Bernie's slogan lines up with the plot lines of Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild.
Samus, obviously a feminist icon, big on women's rights, as in her first game she was assumed by many to be a man until she took her suit off. So she's not going to be voting for the candidate who's anti-women. Thusly, she's voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Dark Samus does not vote, not ineligible, but being alien, doesn't really care for American politics, so decided not to vote.
Yoshi, obviously going to vote for Donald Trump. Yoshi also has a history of tax fraud, just like Donald does.
Kirby, that's an easy Biden vote. Do I really need to explain?
Speaking of easy votes, Fox, absolute Trump vote. Space Force, military.
Pikachu is voting for Biden. Being the face of the Pokemon franchise, Pikachu is kind of like a brunch liberal. You know, he's like, oh, if Hillary were president, we'd be drinking mimosas right now. Pika Pika. Luigi is voting for Biden. That's a topic of hot discussion between the Mario brothers. They argue a lot about it these days. He supported Bernie Sanders in the primary because, as you know, Luigi has anxiety. He gets scared easily. So he wants legalized, at least medical marijuana to help him deal with his anxiety. Ness is not old enough to vote. Politically, he leans toward Biden, but he's relatively uninformed. He's young. He has bigger concerns.
Captain Falcon, much like Fox, Space Force, military.
Easiest Trump vote.
He loves everything Donald Trump stands for, all the tough guy stuff. Captain Falcon, lifelong Republican.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
If you took Captain Falcon's helmet off, it might be Donald Trump.
Well, I think the body type is maybe like, I mean, he definitely...
never mind.
Yeah.
We consulted with an expert, one of the leading political minds in this nation, and they agreed definitively that Jigglypuff is a libertarian.
Yeah, so Jigglypuff will be voting for
Jo Jorgensen.
Peach, just like Mario, going to be voting for Donald Trump. She voted for Trump in 2016, and in the 4 years since has somewhat regretted that vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's really been conflicted about it. Was going back and forth on who she was going to vote for.
She voted for Bill Weld in the Republican primaries and legitimately believed that he could win, but that was never going to happen.
Yeah, and because of her role in the Mario series is always basically being captured by Bowser and just...
She doesn't believe a woman can be president.
Yeah, she's basically been brainwashed and gaslit by her role in the Mario series into believing that women shouldn't hold power, so she's going to be voting for Donald Trump because
she does
unfortunately...
not support Kamala Harris.
Yes.
A female has more hormones. She could start a war in 10 seconds. If she has hot flashes, whatever, boom.
Haven't all wars been started by men?
On the other hand, Daisy, easy Biden vote. Daisy is super progressive. She supported Bernie in the primary. All around, super left-leaning. The most left-leaning of the three princesses, easily.
So, Bowser is the first of the Smash roster to be found in Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book of Sex Offenders. Pretty obviously, Bowser's going to be voting for his friend who's also in that Black Book, Donald Trump.
Ice Climbers, they're both voting for Biden. They supported Bloomberg in the primaries because out in the Arctic there's not a lot of internet, so they really only saw things about the election in the political attitude.
Anyone hear the slogan? Mike will get it done.
Sheik and Zelda, obviously both the same person, thusly
committing voter fraud. They're both voting for Biden, though, so therefore their votes will be thrown out by the Supreme Court in January.
Speaking of voter fraud, Dr. Mario also voting for Donald Trump, but since he's voting in favor of Trump, his vote will be counted by the Supreme Court.
Pichu, ineligible to vote. He is a baby Pokemon. He leans left, and he's actually to the left of Pikachu because he doesn't have as much money as him. He's not the face of the Pokemon franchise, but again, ineligible to vote.
Falco, much like Fox, super right-wing, hardcore Space Force military guns.
Yeah, he loves Trump more than Fox. Fox is like, all right, yeah, that's the choice. Falco, like, has the hat.
Marth.
Easy Biden vote. Pretty much all the Fire Emblem characters are Biden votes. Do we really need to explain that one?
Yeah, Lucina, Biden.
Biden supported Bernie in the primary, again, like Link, because of the slogan, A Future to Believe In, because that kind of lines up with her plot line from Fire Emblem Awakening.
Young Link is obviously young and too young to vote, so he's not participating in this election.
He does run a Students for Biden account, but someday he will join the DSA.
Ganondorf, another of the names in Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book, also voting for Donald Trump.
God.
Mewtwo voting for Joe Biden. Equality is the most important thing to him. After the first Pokemon movie, obviously realizing that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It's what you do with the gift left that determines who you are. So Mewtwo definitely voting for Joe Biden, though in the primary he voted for Marianne Williamson because they're both psychic types.
Roy voting for Biden, easy. All the Fire Emblem characters voting for Biden. Roy supported Bernie in the primary because he feels the burn.
Crom voting for Joe Biden and genuinely believes that Joe Biden is the most progressive man on the planet.
Mr. Game & Watch is voting for Trump because he's a boomer.
Meta Knight is voting for Joe Biden because of his chivalry.
Pitt is voting for Joe Biden. In the primaries, Beto O'Rourke got 1 vote out of the entire primary, and that was Pitt.
Dark Pitt, being that he is created as the opposite of Pitt, will obviously be voting opposite of Pitt, so Dark Pitt is voting for Donald Trump.
Zero Suit Samus once again committing voter fraud by voting for Biden. Samus did support Elizabeth Warren in the primary. We forgot to mention that earlier. She liked how she eviscerated Mike Bloomberg at the one debate. But because they are committing voter fraud, their vote will be turned out by the Supreme Court.
Because they're committing voter fraud in favor of Joe Biden.
Yes, that is an important distinction.
Wario.
I consulted with one of the leading Metal Gear political analysts in the world, and they determined, and I determined with them, that Snake would likely end up voting for Joe Biden, but he would make that decision on Election Day. What Trump has said about the troops bothers him. However, he doesn't trust Biden, but he hates Trump that much. He thinks Trump is weak. He's not a good leader.
He's disrespectful.
He's disrespectful.
Snake's never voted before.
Snake has never voted
He's
before.
not voting for Joe Biden.
He's voting against Donald Trump. Also, an important thing to say, this is not the same Snake, but the Snake from Metal Gear Solid 5 absolutely voting for Trump, has a Trump yard sign, has multiple MAGA hats. Ike is voting for Biden.
Pokemon Trainer is 10 years old, therefore too young to vote. So instead we counted the Pokemon, the 3 Pokemon, each get their own vote as they are different characters. So Squirtle's going to be voting for Joe Biden, Ivysaur voting for Howie Hawkins, obviously Green Party, Ivysaur is a plant, he cares about these kinds of things. Charizard, more conservative than the average Pokemon because he obviously is more successful than most Pokemon with all the roles that he gets, so he has more money, doesn't want the taxes as high, but he still does understand the plight of the lesser Pokemon and the healthcare and everything with Pokemon centers. So he would lean Joe Biden, however, Charizard is very lazy, so he actually just didn't vote. He just never really felt like it.
He sees pros and cons of each candidate. You know, he's not. A lot of the other Biden voters on this list are voting because they're anti-Trump. Charizard supports both of them.
Yeah, he knows that no matter who wins this election, he's going to get another form in Generation 9.
Diddy Kong, ineligible to vote. He's too young. However, his dad got him really into Ben Shapiro in Turning Point USA. Lucas is also too young to vote. He leans to the left, specifically towards Bernie, because he supports Medicare for all because of things that happen in the Mother 3 plotline that would be spoilers.
Sonic votes blue no matter who because he is blue.
King DDD is a libertarian. On one hand, he exploits his workers, but on the other hand, he's a lot happier than like a normal Trump supporter. He's buddy-buddy with Kirby, so I can't really... We couldn't
really
see
chill
him,
in the subspace.
he's chill in subspace, so we can't really see him voting for Trump. But there's also no way he would support Biden because of regulations Biden would put in place. So we said that he is a Jorgensen vote.
Olimar and Alf each get their own vote, and they're both going to be voting for Donald Trump. Again, partially because of the Space Force and because, you know, they're just blue-collar working men who are easily manipulated by them.
And Alf is a little bit racist.
Lucario also voting for Joe Biden, and in the primary, just like Mewtwo, he supported Marianne Williamson because of aura, because Lucario's into that.
So Rob wanted to vote for Joe Biden, however, he got hacked by the Russians, so he voted for Donald Trump. Toonlink is also too young to vote. He has a lot of political opinions, but doesn't really realize that they're political opinions. And he always kind of tells his friends, hey, let's stop talking about politics, guys.
Wolf is yet another name in the Jeffrey Epstein Black Book. However, he's not voting for Trump because he's ineligible to vote, as he is now in prison, as he went down for the whole scandal.
Yeah, he is going to be found dead in a prison cell with a gunshot wound to the back of the head. Ruled a suicide. Villager voted for Biden because Biden campaigned on his island. Mega Man is voting for Biden, and he supported Andrew Yang in the primaries.
We Fit Trainer, another Biden vote, and also another Marianne Williamson supporter in the primary. Salute the sun, she's into that.
So Rosalina and Luma, only Rosalina's voting. The Lumas aren't old enough to vote, but Rosalina is voting for Biden. Rosalina was a big Hillary supporter in 2016. She really wanted to see a woman president. She was all in. She still has the "I'm with her" bumper sticker on her car. However, she is not as excited about Biden. She's voting for him, obviously, to beat Trump, but the past 4 years have really weighed down on her, and she's a lot more cynical than she was in 2016. So Little Mac was another tough one. He does like Biden, and he really kind of doesn't like the things Trump says, especially in regards to race. However, Joe Rogan is voting for Donald Trump, and he just repeats everything Joe Rogan says, because he's a huge fan of the Joe Rogan Experience, so Little Mac is voting Trump.
Greninja is not voting because he does not trust the government.
Palutena is voting Biden. She supported Bernie and Warren in the primary, but ultimately wants to see Donald Trump defeated. Pac-Man is voting for Trump. That is a huge argument in the Pac-Man house. Miss Pac-Man hates Trump. She's really into all the Russiagate stuff. However, she is ineligible for this contest because they forgot to add her as an Echo Fighter.
Robin, also voting for Biden. Shulk doesn't believe that the coronavirus is real. That's why he sometimes runs around in only his boxers. So, voting for Donald Trump.
Easy Trump vote. Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings are all ineligible to vote because they're underage. Almost all of them are into right-wing stuff. A lot of them are into Turning Point USA. Roy buys InfoWars supplements and watches Alex Jones daily. However, one of them, Lemmy, is not right-wing. Lemmy is left-wing and listens to Chapo Trap House.
Duck Hunt voting for Donald Trump because of gun rights.
Ryu, he's not voting. He's up in the mountains. He doesn't care about American politics.
Again, consulted with an expert on this one.
We did consult with an expert on this one.
Ken is voting for Donald Trump.
He is the son of a billionaire, and he does not like Biden's tax plan. Cloud is voting for Howie Hawkins. Following the events of Final Fantasy VII, he's been involved in eco-terrorism to save the planet. He doesn't really believe that violence is the answer to sustaining it, but he also knows that things need to be done to save the planet. So in line with the varying convoluted messages of Final Fantasy VII, we think Cloud would be a vote for Howie Hawkins.
Corin, once again, Biden vote.
Bayonetta is voting for Biden. However, she has made it abundantly clear on social media and to everyone she talks to that she doesn't want to be voting for Biden. She supported Bernie in the primary and viewed him as a compromise candidate. She is super left. Bayonetta is a communist. The Inklings are not old enough to vote. They're all 14 because that's the age you have to be to use your squid powers for some reason. However, they do support both Biden and Hawkins for environmental reasons. Ridley is voting for Jorgensen.
Simon and Richter will both be voting for Donald Trump. I mean, if you just kind of look at Simon, you can just really feel the energy of...
They're really into the religious fundamentalism of Donald Trump, and they really like Amy Coney Barrett.
King K. Rool is also in the Black Book, voting for Donald Trump, of course.
Isabella's voting for Biden. She supported Bernie Sanders in the primary because she is awesome.
Incineroar is the only write-in vote. He wrote in himself.
Yeah. Piranha Plant is voting for Howie Hawkins. He's a big Green Party supporter. He is literally a plant. Okay, so Joker is voting for Joe Biden. He supported Bernie Sanders in the primary because, in line with the themes of Persona 5, he's very into changing society, and it lines up with the politician confidant from the game that he would support a very anti-establishment, children are our future type candidate. However, he is voting for Biden because defeating Trump is the most important thing.
Hero is voting for Donald Trump.
And we did say that Hero is the kind of guy who is vaguely progressive, but he sends you kind of transphobic memes, and you're not sure how to address it, so you just kind of ignore it. But you know that deep down they think that that's okay, and that you think it's okay, and that kind of bothers you.
Yeah, like Hero knows that what he's saying is not acceptable in the
PC.
eyes of society, but he's saying it anyways, almost because you not calling him out on it is in a way approving it.
So you have
in
to
his
call
eyes.
him out on it, and then he gets really offended and calls
Yeah.
you a snowflake, and then you're just not friends with him anymore. It really sucks that, like, your friend was transphobic, you know? So Banjo and Kazooie, they're both voting for Biden. In 2016, Banjo didn't vote, Kazooie voted for Hillary, and Kazooie has hounded him for it for the past 4 years. In the primary, Kazooie voted for Warren, Banjo did not vote. He was too lazy.
Terry is voting for Donald Trump.
It is fucking obvious.
Yeah. And we get to the one Fire Emblem character who is voting for Donald Trump, Byleth, because
Lives in a monastery, all about, you know, religious fundamentalists, also very, like, centrist, and I think that the religion would force Byleth to lean towards Trump.
Min Min is voting for Joe Biden. She's from China. She doesn't like the things that Donald Trump says about China, the attacks that he carries out against China, so she's voting for Joe Biden.
Steve and Alex were on the fence. They weren't sure who to vote for or if they were even going to vote, but they saw Donald Trump say that Joe Biden is against, like, Pennsylvania mining towns and fracking, and because Minecraft is all about mining, they ended up supporting Trump for, like, the coal industry.
Me Brawler is a Donald Trump vote.
Me Swordfighter is a libertarian vote. Have you ever met someone that owns a sword and isn't a libertarian?
And Me Gunner is also a Donald Trump vote because of gun rights.
Yeah, obviously. And that's the roster. Now we have to get into the Electoral College.
So the way the Electoral College works is that it's based off of series and fighter slots. So every series is based on 2 electoral votes, and then every 2 fighter slots that they have gets them 1 more electoral vote, rounding up. So for example, a series with 3 fighters would get the base 2 electoral votes, plus another 2 from those 3 fighters. The first 2 fighters are 1 electoral vote, and that 3rd fighter, as it rounds up, gets another electoral vote. As you can see here, we have a column dedicated to the value of each of the vote of each individual voter within the population. It's also worth mentioning that the population voting isn't necessarily equal to the number of character slots, as character slots can count for characters like Bowser Jr. or Inkling, who are ineligible to vote, as well as characters like Pokemon Trainer, who gets 3 votes for Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard, but in the Electoral College, that only counts for 1, as it's only 1 character slot. As you can see, we have a column dedicated to the value of each vote of every individual voter for each series. As you can see, some of them are less than 1, and others are as big as 3, as in 3 electorates, basically, for 1 voter. The reason that there's inconsistencies in the value of votes between the different franchises is because that's how the Electoral College works. It's not fair. Alright, the time has come to reveal the winner of the election, at least as far as Smash is concerned. So, here are the full results. As you can see, Joe Biden had more votes in the popular vote than Donald Trump did, but as a result of the broken Electoral College system, Donald Trump wins the election.
Well, there you have it. The results of the 2020 election. At least according to political analysts looking at one of the largest fighting crossover games ever made. Until 2024, that's all for now. And remember to vote.